Cubs made a signing, Matthew Boyd, kind of a surprise, in the rotation now. What does that mean? Spend some money on that. And does that tell us anything about the direction they're going with Cody Bellinger? Feel like they're really trying hard to move him, or am I misreading this? We're going to get into that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this thing going. Cardinals fans, don't even think about it. Cubs fans, you know how to do more than one thing at a time. Let's get this thing going. Go Cubs. All right, guys, what do you say? Thank you for hanging out. Mick Gillespie here. You guys know me as broadcaster Mick on the socials, and you can follow the Cubs channel on all the major sites. And we appreciate you guys being part of what we do here. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's fun following the Cubs on a day-to-day basis and doing some content and talking to you guys. And one of the best parts about the show is that we get to interact. All right. Let's interact with this right here. Big news was that the Cubs went out and signed Matthew Boyd to a 2-year, $29 million contract. And initially I thought, okay, Cleveland, obviously they surprised everyone and, made a run in the playoffs. Was this another guy that was part of their bullpen? And then I'm like, I think that guy starts. And then I look and he does. I mean, he's pretty much a starter. And I don't know that that's what the Cubs have in mind or don't, but I mean, he's pitched 182 games and 168 of them are as a starter. Now, he did come in at the end of the season in 8 starts and had a 272 earned run average for Cleveland, coming back from arm injury, and he's had kind of a, dealing with some arm injuries. And a lot of people feel like he's kind of on the back end of his career, who has now, or it has now stretched 10 years, as most of you guys know. And, he's 46 and 69, a 4.85 ERA, and has pitched for a bunch of teams, Toronto, Detroit for years, Seattle, and Cleveland. And now he's with the Cubs. And you look at this contract and it's, 2 years, $29 million. I guess that this is the guy that's going to replace, that's going to replace Kyle Hendricks in the rotation for the Cubs. And I guess what they're hoping is that the guy that they saw, including a really great playoff performance for the Guardians, is the guy that the Cubs are going to get. To me, it feels like I'm watching the Dodgers sign, Cy Young Award winners and MVPs, with Nate Snell now over there. Every time you turn around, they're bringing somebody else big in. And the Cubs are like, it's like they're eating off of the steak menu, right? And the Cubs are like eating off of the McDonald's dollar menu. I mean, this is another one of those, hey, we're trying to find a diamond in the rough type deal to me. Maybe, because you gave him 2 years, is he even going to be healthy for 2 years? They're betting on him being healthy and looking like he did at the end of last season. At first I thought, well, you know what? I mean, maybe this is kind of one of those deals too, where maybe they see him being something other than a starter. But I think that he is going to be a starter in this rotation. So you hope that some of the young guys can come up and push for a spot in the starting rotation. But $29 million it's good money. I mean, it's maybe not for a starting pitcher in the major leagues, but for any of us. And so that's the deal. And a lot of people are already looking at this and going, hey, this isn't a great deal. This is a bad contract. But maybe what the Cubs plan is that they feel like, hey, get this guy. He looked good at the end of last year and he could overperform this contract. And maybe, that helps them get to where they want to get to. And that's over 83 and 79 and into the postseason. So I'm not blown away by this deal. I don't think any of you guys are. We'll see what it looks like in the long term. But the Cubs are addressing the bullpen. They need to keep addressing the bullpen and, and pitching in general. So, this is another move. Now, they're strapped financially because of this Cody Bellinger deal, right? $27.5 million. And the question is where's he going to go? Is he going to stay? Cubs thought he was going to opt out. I thought he was going to opt out. I was shocked when he opted back in. But that's the market saying, hey, man, you're not worth $27.5 million. You're just not. So what's the future of this deal? Well, the teams that you keep hearing are the Yankees and then the Angels. Now, there could be some other teams in there, but the Angels have made some moves to make their team better. Adding a former Dodgers star would definitely, make the team a little more attractive. It would make them a better, a better contender. And then the Yankees, if they don't get Juan Soto, they're going to need some help because it's the Yankees. I mean, they're eating off the steak menu with the Dodgers, right? I mean, maybe not quite the Dodgers payroll, but they're not afraid to spend money. So the $27.5 million is probably a backup plan for the Yankees, and they hope that, hey, man, you get the guy and he slides in there and looks like the Cody Bellinger we saw a couple of years ago. And we saw flashes of that last year, but it just wasn't consistent. So still keeping an eye out. I think that this market is kind of held up like last year. It was held up by Shohei Ohtani. And remember, the Cubs were they were in the mix for Ohtani. Are they in the mix for Juan Soto? No. And every indicator that we have is that the Cubs aren't going to be big spenders this year. And I'm telling you, the reason why is I don't think it's as much about the money as it is the uncertainty with the front office. I think you give a contract, you have meetings, you say, hey, we're not going to get rid of you. We're going to give you one more year, but you're going to get one more year knowing that you don't have the ability to go out and spend a bunch of money. You're going to have to work with what you got, and we'll see how that turns out. That's just my gut feeling. And that's just a business feeling. And I've said that over and over on here. I wouldn't have been surprised if they wouldn't have cleaned house, just because if it doesn't work out, you've put yourself a whole nother year behind where your next GM is going to be. And I think that if the Cubs go out and make a change in the front office, they're going to make a change, like a total change. It's not going to be like, hey, here's the assistant coming up to be the GM. I think you go out and you get somebody different, and that brings a different philosophy in, right? So that's what Jed Hoyer's fighting against right now. He's got to have a really big year. He needs some of these bets to pay off, and so for $29 million, you get a Matthew Boyd, okay? And, Matthew Boyd's, I don't know, like he'll give you some innings. And you hope if he's healthy and he looks like he did for Cleveland last year, maybe you end up with something good out of it. I don't know. Now, a couple of former Cubs that are kind of on the move. One guy signed with the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman. He was one of the key pieces of the 2016 World Series. I don't understand why the Cubs don't want him back. I mean, he was pretty good last year, and he's been consistently a good pitcher. And so the Red Sox are going to pay him. He's like $10 million, and he's still a back-end guy. You could use him to close some, but he's more of a setup guy these days. He's still throwing 100 miles an hour, and he gets outs. Like he just keeps on trucking. But I would have loved to have had him last year. I think that he could have made a difference on that team a year ago, but he's going to go to the Red Sox now. So, I mean, I guess at some point they're figuring his arm's going to fall off, or maybe he's just one of these guys that can throw forever. And then Mike Tauchman, rumored to maybe go to the Cincinnati Reds. So think about that. Sit there and have to see Mike Tauchman come to town with Cincinnati if that's where he ends up signing. But he was a Cubs fan favorite. People really like him. He's a good player. I don't think he's an everyday guy, but I think he's a really good reserve. You can put him in spots, and when you don't overexpose him, so he's definitely an asset to your team. So those two guys I wanted to talk about, and that's kind of where we are right now. So get in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation there, and then jump back on tomorrow and just see where this thing is. I'm looking at some of these really good Japanese players. I feel like the Cubs are willing to go that direction because it helps them get a grasp on this international market. Baseball in Japan is huge. You can make a lot of money off of your really good Japanese players because there's just so much interest there. And so Cubs have a couple really good players. Two of the best players are from Japan. So, we'll see if they're going to be a player in that market. You got to pay the team that posts them, and then you got to pay them. But it's easier negotiating because there's a deadline. So you're not dealing with Scott Boras, so you can make some deals happen. But that's all going to come down to whether the Cubs want to spend money or not. And also maybe if they get rid of Cody Bellinger. But I got this feeling that there's some teams out there that are going to be willing to take the money part of the Bellinger contract. the other thing for me is, what do the Cubs get back in return? So a team may say, look, we'll pick up, the Angels may say, look, we'll pick up the 27.5, but we're not giving you much back. We'll send a couple guys your way just so that it doesn't look so bad to the media. But as far as like getting equivalent talent, I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't think that teams value him at $27.5 million, but that's what the Cubs paid him. So anyway, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Get in there, share the videos, like and subscribe, comment section, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon. It's an exciting time, man. I love the hot stove season. So tell me who you guys think the Cubs would be willing to pay for and could really be in. That's a question I want to know. And maybe we'll do some videos on those guys. So go Cubs.